hope everyone had a great Christmas holiday, and now we're heading into the New Year's Eve thing, and I can't believe it's almost 2024. So Sunday's New Year's Eve, and Monday, man, New Year's Day. But tune in, fans. We got a special guest today, and all New York Rangers fans, please tune in into today's show. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Spreaker, all the podcast platforms. And fans, please tune in on the Spreaker app. You can ask questions on that app on my phone to today's guest. But before we introduce today's guest, by the way, who had a great Christmas holiday? Everyone, please tune in into this one. But today's guest, we have former New York Rangers GM Neil Smith. What a great career he had as a GM, and also he had a great playing career. He played in the hockey league. He got drafted in 204th overall. 1974 New York Islanders got drafted from them. His playing career was from 76 to 1980. And what a great career there, and great career as a GM. He was a broadcaster. He's a broadcaster. He did everything in the hockey league. He was a coach also. We'll get to all of his career, his journey, how he got started in the hockey league, and how he built the 94 New York Rangers championship, where he helped them get the cup with Mark Messier and a lot of great stars on that team. And like I said, fans, please tune in, and Happy New Year coming up soon. But Neil, I just want to say thank you for joining the show. It's truly an honor. And how are you and your family doing? And how was your Christmas?
We're in North Carolina. We spent half of Greenville, South Carolina, and then half of Little Falls, New Jersey, so that I can go to all the Islander games for years that I work for the financial company. But no, everything like everybody else. It's nice to get a little bit of a break. And at the game, it was the first one I'd missed this season. A good one to miss for the Islanders because they got killed 7-0. So that was interesting. But everything's good. We're to 2024.
Yeah. So before we get to your career, tell our fans about the New York Islanders. They announced something recently with the stadium, and talk about that. I think they officially announced it. But tell our fans about that opportunity that the Islanders have now coming up.
Yeah, the Islanders have got the park put outside. What is happening really is the Belmont Park Raceway is being renovated over the next couple of years. The whole stadium down, which is undertaken. I believe that the horse racing to Saratoga for years out of Belmont Park, but the Islanders have a couple of rinks outside the building and go there and play outdoor hockey on those two ice surfaces. It's a lot of fun, and of course that leads up to the game in February when the Islanders play at MetLife Stadium, and that'll be quite.
Wow. And talk about how special would that be for the Islanders fans and all the Islanders players that played with that team, and even for you, and how special is that to see that happening for that team?
Oh, it's great. I mean, the Islanders have a beautiful building now. I've been there, but the UBS Arena is the nicest building I've ever been in, and it's a pleasure to go there and watch the games and meet fans and meet people. I had a great years in the early 80s with the Islanders, and so I feel at home when I go. Even though I'm most known for the Rangers Stanley Cup, I take a lot of pride in the fact that I was with early in my career. The Islanders are got a lot of good things going for them now with the new building, and the attendance is up, and people are very the building and Ace is back on Long Island where it belongs instead of in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. So I think things are really looking up for that franchise.
Yeah, so tell how did Neil Smith get into hockey, especially playing hockey, and before transitioning? But tell our fans, how did Neil Smith get into hockey?
Well, it's not the way you'd think. I'm a Canadian from Toronto, and of course I grew up in the 60s, and everybody played hockey back then. And that was really the only We didn't have the Toronto Blue Jays. We didn't have the Toronto Raptors. We only had the Toronto Maple Leafs, and everybody wanted to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. But the person that really got me started in hockey was my mother. She was a hockey player from Winnipeg, Manitoba. My father died young, and I took after everything my mother liked, and that one of them, of course, was hockey and her love of gel. And so that's how I really got started, and started playing as a little kid, and lucky enough and blessed enough to this day to really have never done anything else but hockey. And that's how it all got started. It's all because of my mom.
Yeah. So talk about obviously playing hockey and then being and then having your mom being the biggest influencer. So how proud was your mom that you got into hockey and eventually got drafted into the league?
No, I think she was very proud of that. She was very proud of my college career. I was All-American at Western Michigan, and I think she was very excited about that. It's, the big stuff came late. Luckily, she was there for when Stanley Cup, and so I can't imagine being a parent and your eventually leads a team to the Stanley Cup, and not only a Stanley Cup, but that's only been won once in all these years since World War II.
Yeah, so fans, please tune into the app. You can put your questions on the speaker app. We are live with former New York Rangers GM Neil Smith. Also played in the league. He's a broadcaster, coach, so we'll get to all of that. And he has a new podcast coming out soon next year, so we'll get to all that too. But we are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, on the podcast platforms. Please tune in. Speaking of your college career, obviously Western Michigan University, you played there, and talk about the whole career. What was it like playing for that team? And you got inducted into their Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it was really an experience for me to go to Western Michigan. It's in Michigan. I spent 4 years there, had a great time, a great experience. When I left, everybody leaves after senior year, and inducted into as the first hockey player ever put into Western Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. So that was quite an honor, and given an honor by the university for alumni award. And so that was another big deal for me at Western Michigan. And I can't say enough about the college experience. It was just great.
Yeah. We have a fan question here in my app already on the speaker app. One of our fans wants to know some of your best moments as a hockey player.
Well, I think my very best moment as a hockey player, as a player itself, was named All-American as a fresh college. Wasn't a real good pro. Trying to play in the 70s, it was pretty difficult with the way the rules were in that. So I think my proudest moment was when I was named All-American after my freshman year.
Well, what did that mean to you, winning All-American?
Canadian kid, first year in the United States, and then just those words, All-American, means something when you're Canadian, because you watch a lot of TV when you're in Canada, all the great American stuff. So to come to the United States and win that on really meant a lot.
Yeah. So talk about the draft, and obviously the draft was way different from now and then from back in the day when you got drafted. So talk about the NHL draft, and what was that experience like in getting drafted by the Islanders?
Well, it was much different than it is now. I mean, first of all, it was they until nobody wanted to pick anymore. So I was drafted in, I think, the 12th or 13th, albeit there was only, I think, 18 teams at the time. I'm not even sure there were. That was a great honor. It was something that when it had never away from you, they can't discredit it. So you always have that in your life that you were drafted into the. So yeah, that was that was one of the great feelings that I had. But as I said, I wasn't at the time, and I was trying out for the in 1978. Of course, they were on the verge of a straight Stanley Cup, so they had a great team, and I was not going to crack.
Yeah, speaking of, so we have another fan question for you. One of our fans wants to know what was it like for you to be part of the New York history between the Islanders and Rangers, both teams. They want to know what was it like being part of both teams.
Well, it was great. Lucky enough that I was on the good end at both. So when Islanders, we were beating the Rangers regularly, and then when I was part of the Rangers, those weren't great years for the Islanders. So we were Islanders quite handedly most of that time, including in '94 when we first round. So I love the rivalry, and I actually love both fan bases. They're totally different. The Long Islander fan base is everybody drives to where they're going. They get in their car and they go. Like the Ranger fan base is much more corporate, and you go in and out to the game on public transportation. Most people do, and it's also a fan base that goes back generations and generations. Whereas the Islander fan base goes back to 1962. But the great thing for this was in 1983 when they won their fourth Stanley Cup. That was one more Rangers had won, and they had started in the league in 1926. Yeah. So that's where that rivalry really each other because I'm so successful in the 80s.
Yeah, and then speaking of your playing career, you moved from you played with a lot of different teams in different leagues, the CHL, AHL. You won a couple cups in those two leagues. So talk about that experience. Tell our fans winning the cup, the Adams Cup, the Calder Cup, in the AHL, and then CHL. Talk about that experience and winning multiple cups.
Well, I won in the as GM, Adirondack Red Wings twice in the 80s, and then the Hartford Wolfpack 2000. It's a different experience than the Stanley Cup because obviously it's not as momentous or worldwide recognition. Much fun and so much such a great. And you win. It's not a complete disaster if you don't win, like it is in the NHL, but it is just a wonderful fun when you win in the American League. And the thing about winning in the American League was it gave me more knowledge on how to win championships. So I'd been with the Islanders. I was lucky for that. But then those two Calder Cups in Adirondack with the Red Wings gave me more again. Fundamentals of what it really takes to win, and it was with the ring.
So we have another fan question here on my app. One of our fans wants to know, what do you like about the hockey now and the growth of hockey, and obviously still big in Canada, but now is big worldwide. So they want to know your thoughts on the growth of hockey now as a sport.
Well, it's really amazing for me to watch the player base and where it comes now, because when I was a kid, the whole original six was except for one player on Boston, American, and then to see it transform in the Swedes, Hammerstrom onto Toronto, and then to see Finnish, Czech players and Russian players, of course, come into the league. Really made the league a lot better. Then to see the drastic that were put in place in this set meeting from the 2000-2005 on to this day. Now we've got a game of in skill a level that we never imagined in the night. You just totally. And also with the red line gone, you're getting a lot less whistles than we used to have, and the game just, in fact, On the downside, it's not the physical used to have. It's not the if you like fighting and rough stuff and all that, you're not going to see it much anymore. More speed and skill today. So I think in life improves as it goes along. And, obviously the NHL and all its components, meaning equipment and ice and everything has improved in life to make it a scientifically game.
Yeah, so you were born in Ontario, Canada, Toronto, and how special is that for you being able to be being from Canada and playing the sport that's huge in Canada and be able to represent that country? So talk about that. How special is that for you?
No, that's great. When you grow up in Canada, or when I shouldn't say when, because I don't know today, but when I was growing up, a dream that you'd be in the NHL. It was just a far off thing. Fan of the NHL, and you picture yourself being in it, but because you just it was all just you that were in the league. So to eventually get into the NHL as a scout, and then be able to become a G, especially with an original six team, and it's awesome. It was a lifetime to be part of New York City.
You're gonna actually. I forgot to mention we also had Stefan and Adam at Woodbridge Brewing Company too. So yeah, we had them for appearances. Adam Graves and Stefan, and they were great people, and obviously part of your team. And speaking of the original six, tell our fans, how did you get the opportunity to become the New York Rangers GM, and how honored were you that they considered you as a GM?
Well, it was back in the summer of '89, and Phil Esposito had just gotten fired. The Rangers had lost to Pittsburgh Penguins 4 straight, and that was when they had Phil Bergeron as the coach, and he had taken over. Phil had, and so they let him go. And then in after the draft that year, of course, I ran the draft for Detroit Red Wing. To the draft, they asked me, and I interviewed them. I was very young, and it ended up a month later that they hired me in through the ringer. I felt like, because of the process, and I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I'm not going to get it. Eventually I did. And then of course, going in there as GM, I'm scared out of my mind because I'm so young, and I'm like, how the heck did I end up getting this? It was really something well known at the time, at voting ability, and be drafted for Detroit, and had the opportunity to interview. But a couple of people turned it down. I think that's how they ended up handing it to me.
Would you say being a GM in the different leagues you were part of, would you say that helped you gain the experience to be able to get the GM job with the New York Rangers?
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that I'd done so much right, and I had history going back to the Islanders when they were winning. So those things really helped me. I think that having on your resume that have won champion is something that's thought, or certainly was thought of highly. And I think that played into the opportunity.
I have another fan question here for you. One of our fans is Islanders fan, so they want to know, what was it like seeing Dennis and his brother go about their business with the Islanders as players, and Dennis Correa, a great player, 4-time Stanley Cup champion. So they want to know, what was it like seeing them go about their business with the Islanders?
Well, I know both Jean, God rest, who passed away last year, and of course I know Dennis. I just talked to him yesterday, I think it was. Of course, Dennis was an NHL superstar, captain, leader, Stanley Cups, and Norris. He had just this player, number retired, Hockey Hall of Fame, and Jean went into the financial business after his. One of the nice to meet is we call him Potsy, and just wonderful people. And I got to say that although Dennis, when he was younger, when he was a player, was thought of as a little bit stuck up, which is fine. He probably had to feel that to be as good as he was.
Yeah.
And now he's just a wonderful guy, humble with the Islander games when they bring him. I know he was there last night. He'll be there again tomorrow night. And I just love Dennis. I think he's a cricketer for the Islanders.
And speaking of Dennis, he was actually on 98.7 ESPN today, on the Jake Asman show and the Maria show. So he spoke about the stadium they announced, and he spoke about the Islanders, and that was a great listen to. So whoever listens to 98.7, please give that a listen. He was on earlier today on that show. So talk about the original 16 that you built. You basically built the championship team 94, and it's always hard being a GM or owner of a team, or even a coach. It's hard being a general manager, coach, or whatever for a team. But for you, how did you make this happen? And obviously making all those trades at the deadline with Mark Messier. Bringing Mark Messier was huge for the Rangers, but you also had Mike Richter, Safon, Adam. You had a great roster, Mike Richter. So talk about all that, and how did you make this happen?
Well, first of all, I was very lucky that when I got to the Rangers, Ryan Leach had already been drafted, and he was playing there. He won the Calder Trophy the year before for Rookie of the Year. Tony Granato, and he was on the team. After coming goaltender, wasn't yet on the team, but he was in their organization. And we had other that were valuable, like Thomas Sandstrom, as I mentioned, Tony Granato, Dahlin. They were all there when I got there. What happened was, I think that the experience that I'd had with the Islanders led me to be patient in the first, and then moves at the deadline or around the All-Star break, actually the first year, to get Bernie Nichols, and then at the deadline to get Mike Gartner. And that team, a good team. And the other thing to forget to mention is I hired Roger Nielsen as in the Hall of Fame. Roger helped me get through the first few years because I didn't know what he really did, because he's a veteran. That was really helpful. But I knew after year when we got knocked out, I think in fate, I believe, I better hurry up with this plan of a top, or else I'm going to be gone and they're going to give it to somebody else. So that's when we, for Messier, we signed Adam Graves, we got Jeff Bukaboom, and everything started to work there. President's Trophy. And, we put the piece by piece the deadline in 94 when we made those 4 trades. And we subtracted 2 players, which would have been Mike Gartner and Tony Amon. I added 4, which Glenn Anderson, Craig McTavish, Noonan, and Stefan Matteau. So the better, thankfully, going into the playoffs, and we just edged in overtime, as everyone remembers, and then we're able to the Canucks. So it was a major process, and free agents on too. That's something I don't think people understand. And that didn't have free agents. There was no free agent. So we had everybody that we had there was either drafted or more. So it was a real building.
Yeah, so and also there's a picture of you holding the Stanley Cup like this, and talk about how special was that for you when they completed the goal by winning the Stanley Cup champion in '94, and those trades paying off for you guys, and having a great team, and then seeing that finally coming to fruition, and doing something special for the Rangers fan, and then calling you guys original 6. So how special was that for you after holding that trophy and celebrating with the team?
Well, additional time. I mean, it really is an animal situation for you, because all options come out at the same time. You've done something that uh, you know, all it was, you never feel like it. It was, you did it and you realized, my goodness, we've really this, and we've accomplished a place where they really never thought they were ever going to win it.
Yeah.
Like, I know that from being around the Rain fan base, they had gone 54 years and they thought, like, come on, can ever going to do it? It's like the Boston Red Sox fans used to think. And so to kill that demon or break the curse, or I call it, and actually did that, was very and overwhelming, actually.
And what did you guys do after you guys won the Stanley Cup? What was the first thing you guys did, the players did actually, and then obviously after you, what did you guys do afterwards? When you guys left the stadium and then you guys went through all the post game interviews. What did you guys do after you guys left the stadium?
Well, we actually had parties up in the building in the play-by-play club, and everybody went there. And then after that, the players took the cup. Several of their favorite places and celebrated together. I was with my mom, my wife at the time, and so I was basking in enjoyment of that night.
And then and then also back to your mom. I'm a family person myself, and having your mom there, and obviously she was the one who helped you get into hockey, and she convinced you to be in hockey. So how special was that for you to have your mom in there and seeing her witness something special also?
Well, and she and drank out of the Stanley. That was something special too. But no, I mean, it was just like everything was like God, oh my God. You feel like you just don't at the moment that it's real. It is.
Yeah.
But no, it's overwhelming. And so looking back, that's my greatest thrill, I think, is that my mom was there and that she got experience that with me. And I see her son start in hockey at 8 years old, and then at 40, win the Stanley Cup in New York City. So it was great for me to be able to give my mom that payback for all the done for me.
Yeah. So we have another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know, during your playing career, did you have any like pregame routine or a meal, a pregame meal or snack? They want to know your pregame routine as a player.
I think as a player, and certainly in college, we had to eat in the dorms, and so you just had to eat whatever there. It wasn't they've got chefs and they've got different wonderful nutritious meals every time, but then it was just you can. But I mean, one of the things was you say a lot of energy at night after you'd eat around 12 or 1 o'clock, and then your energy for the game. And then there's little things about work when you got to the arena and how did you walk into the building. It was the same way because hockey players are superstitious about everything they do. So and superstitions as well. But again, it was there's being a player. I mean, you can win everything you want as a manager, coach, trainer, but there's nothing being on the ice and doing it on the ice.
Yeah. So transitioning from your playing career to your GM career to now you broadcasting and coaching. So what was that transition like from being a GM now and also going to coaching and broadcasting?
Well, it sort of came natural to do that in college, and I guess the personality to do it. A lot of GMs, in fact, I'd say 90% of the GMs don't have that kind of personality. They that's really usually players or coach. But I did that work on NHL Network first. I'm not doing that anymore, and now we're going into these years ahead, hopefully years ahead with the podcast starting in January. But enjoy being behind the microphone of people and talking about.
Yeah, speaking of the podcast, let's talk about the podcast, and it's going to launch next year. So fans tune in. Neil Smith is having a podcast coming out next year. So talk about that and what's that all about for your podcast?
Well, it's going to be called NHL Rapper. You can see that it's coming soon on most of the platforms. Have it come. It's going to be my very close friend of mine, Vic from ESPN, who are in the and now we've been working in June. So basically, it's not going to be just what happened last night or talk about. It's going to be more in depth into great. Hopefully, we both have a decks of friends that we know would come on. It's going to be looking at the past as into the present. You get a firing of a coach, or you get an injury to a player, or something that happens. Vic and I, being the age we are, have probably seen it all happen before. Things to the past because of our long history in the game. So I'm really excited to do it, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Mm-hmm. We have another fan question. So they want to know, as a GM, how special was it to see Mike Richter be one of the best goalies in hockey, and seeing him make some incredible saves in his career? So they want to know, as a GM, what was it like seeing the Mike Richter as a goalie?
Well, first of all, as GM, I felt myself lucky because a goalie is the most important position, and I didn't have to. Richter, Mike Richter was in the organization. We just had to Richter, and then to see him win the Stanley Cup as the goaltender was a thrill for me. Obviously, I owe a lot to him because when we don't win, but that's true for about 20 other people. I count him as a good friend now. I like Mike very much. There's nothing I wouldn't do for him, and I think he feels the same way about me. He's gone on a career, and he's a special person. I will always love Mike Richter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now talk about for your coaching career, and what was it like helping these young hockey players learn about how to be the right place, right time, and talk about sharing your experiences with these hockey players that you coached in your career.
Well, I owned the team in Johnstown, the Johnstown Chiefs, that were actually the Slapshot team from the movie that were depicted in the movie.
Oh,
Slapshot, and coached for one season, and I enjoyed the young people. What I really enjoy about that level of hockey, which is 2 down from the NHL, it goes NHL, American, and ECHL, is that they're doing it because of their love of the game. They're not doing it because they're making money. They're not making much money, but they want to give it one last shot. They want to try to continue to play and see if they can make it. And I really admire that. That's the level that I really enjoyed those kids, and hopefully I gave some coaching on life more than even, because that's so much more important.
Another fan question here. One of our fans wants to know: would you consider being if the right opportunity comes again? Would you consider being a GM again, or like a GM? They want to know: would you consider being a GM again?
I would. I don't think that's going to come because they just hiring new and younger people now. I certainly would consider it. I still think I could do it, but I say that it's a young man's profession because of the salary cap and all things that go into it. It's a 32-team league, which is bigger than when I was GM. We didn't have a salary back then, which was a curse because when you're in New York and you don't spend when you're allowed to by no cap, people get down on you and say, well, you should be getting that player, and you have no other than you can't get them today. They've got so they've always got that in their back. But yeah, I would, the right situation came along, sure, I would do it.
Yeah, so speaking of GM, obviously Chris Drury now is the GM for the New York Rangers, and talk about this team. They're having an unbelievable season right now, 24-8, playing great hockey as a team. And Peter Laviolette, he's showing that he's a perfect hire for them. Obviously, last year you had Gallant. But talk about last year's team going to this year, because last year they tried to go all in also when they made those trade with Patrick Kane and Tarasenko, and obviously it didn't work out. But this year it seems like Peter Laviolette put in his own system, and the players are feeding off on that. So talk about from last year's team to this year's team.
Yeah, I think that I don't think those were the wisest decisions to pick up Vladimir Tarasenko and Patrick Kane when they did, because I think about building. I'm not saying that they were wrong to do it, or that I knew at the time more than anybody. I'm not saying that, but I didn't think at the time it was going to be the wisest thing. I think Jerry Gallant got it. I think that was a shame that he was fired. I don't think, I mean, to see he's back. I don't know what more he could have done. That was their decision, and they brought in Peter Laviolette, and Laviolette's not doing a good job. I mean, he's doing a great in the system, but what I see in the Rangers more than anything is Cartel is enjoying the season this year, and he's having fun, and he's playing way better than he did for Jerry Gallant for whatever reason. I see that. I see the development of their blue line. Trouba's back. Also got Keandre, who had quite a night against the Capitals last night. They've got defense. I think bringing in Gustafsson was a real good move, because Laviolette knows him from Washington. And Zibanejad are pretty steady year to year. Kreider's a great goal scorer. Zibanejad is a really good centerman. And their power play is going along great. I think they're a really good team. Just quite as well as he did 2 years ago. But having said that, winning games. I mean, last night, scored on first. It was 1-0 Washington, and they came to win. I think they've got pieces there. It'll be interesting to see they do now in the deadline, if anything, to try to bolster.
Yeah, speaking of deadline moves, and obviously you're known for the deadline moves. So I heard there's a rumor out there that they're trying to bring back Tarasenko, apparently, but I don't know if that's true or not. But speaking of that, what do you think being a former GM of this team, what do you think they need to surround the surrounding pieces now? Do you think they should bring back Tarasenko, or what do they need to complete the goal of winning a championship?
I think they just need to fortify what and so upgrade, but an upgrade in the supplementary part of the team. In other words, upgrade in the fifth and sixth, or fourth, fifth, and sixth defensemen. Upgrade the bottom two lines. I'm not saying exactly who, but I am saying that you don't take if Tarasenko, if you're bringing, he's got to play on the top two, and now you've upset everything again, and you're going to have to put a second liner on the third line, and he's not going to be happy. So I would, in '94, none of those four players that came in were so they were all just supplemental players that were going to add to what we had, and I think that he is.
We have another fan question. One of our fans wants to know how special is the Madison Square Garden, and obviously the mecca of all sports. And they want to know, talk about the Madison Square Garden itself and being there.
I think it was just a thrill to go in there every be in Madison Square Garden and know in the middle of Manhattan, you're a couple blocks from the Empire State Building. You're you're in this iconic. It was never lost on me, that I was working at Miller Garden, and that it was as you say, of sports, and certainly a world building, and working with the Regional 16 the Rangers very well, probably better than any GM that's ever been there, except maybe Lester Patrick. So to be part of that history it was a great honor.
Yeah, so all our fans wants to know, and we're doing obviously I told you before, we're doing an event with Will Cooley next year at the Woodbridge Brewing Company, and all our fans wants to know, what are your thoughts on Will Cooley so far as a player?
I think he's been great. I mean, I love his abrasiveness. I love his tenacity. I think he's going to be a real good term guy. I can get hurt because he plays in a way that you could easily get hurt. But that sometimes goes with that. You look back at players in recent memory that the Rangers have had that have been like that, in Dubinsky, let's say, and Callahan. Those guys played that rough, tough style and ended up getting injured from time to time. And I guess Will Cooley will be the same, but I really have enjoyed watching him play. I think he's a great add for the Rangers.
We'll take one more fan question here. They want to know, which player do you like watching now outside in the whole league?
Well, in the whole league, I would have, I love watching McDavid because he's such a special player on Edmonton. Anytime I can get to see him play, it's sort of fascinating. He'll do. I guess I have players almost on most of the team that I really enjoy. I enjoy Zibanejad on the Rangers only because I know he's a class act, and I think people, although they appreciate him, I think there's people that aren't Ranger fans that might not understand how good of a player he is and how strong and tough that he is. And tough meaning you're not going to intimidate him. Player that intimidated. So, I enjoy those guys. I mean, there's players all over the league that you love to watch. When I see Chicago play, of course, I'm interested to see how good Bedard is and how good he will be. But there's a lot of them you can go on, and I just still enjoy going to NHL. It's amazing. I say that to myself. I've been doing it 10 years old when I first went to Maple Leaf Gardens, and you still enjoy it. And that to me is what a blessing you could have to do something in life that I've enjoyed your entire life.
Yeah, so before we let you go, I want to get your thoughts on a couple of things of this season, but the stadium series especially. What do you like about the stadium series they do now in the NHL, where they play outdoors and giving a different experience to fans? And talk about that stadium series for next year too, coming here, and also talk about the commissioner Gary Bettman. What do you like about him?
Well, it's starting with Gary Bettman. I mean, Gary got hired at in 1992. For the 92-93 season, league for 31 years now, and I think you could possibly ask anybody to do a better job than he's done. Owners, some fans may not like his decisions that he has to make, but if you talk about escalating the value of the franchise, escalating the revenue produced, Gary has been a genius, to be honest. I think that the stadium series and the Winter Classic and all add something to an 82 game schedule for the fans season, and can look forward to these different events that go on. And I love the fact that the Islanders and the Rangers and the Devils and the Flyers are all going to play at MetLife Stadium this year, and we'll get a chance to. But I think it's just, you know what? In the NBA, they're doing that tournament stuff, and the has got their games, and I think I don't think it needs more than that. They fan different than NBA fans, not better, not worse, just different. And I think that the Stadium Series Winter Club gives them a during the season.
Are you going to be are you going to be in attendance at MetLife for that one?
I think it will be Ranger game. Yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of this season, you don't have to make your Stanley Cup Finals predictions yet, but just give us your top team so far in the East and then the West also in the East the East where the Rangers is and the other league too.
Yeah, I think that in the West, Vancouver is a shocking team. They're 14 points ahead of where they were last year at this time. The LA Kings are really good. They're back playing like they did when they won their cups earlier in the century. And of course, you can't get out because they're reigning champions. I think in the East, I mean, the Rangers got to be put up there right away. One with Boston, who floundered lately. After that, it's a dog for that. Really, I think the Rangers stand out amongst the rest, but there's not consistency in the East. The Carolina and New Jersey are both way behind where they were last year. Can't count on a win from night to night. They lost last night to Ottawa at home. So, the most consistent team so far, Boston early and then as well. But everything is off the table once the playoffs, as we all know.
Anything can happen in the playoffs. And there you have it. Former New York Rangers GM Neil Smith. He was a player, broadcaster, coach. Man, he did everything in the league. And, man, what a great career, man. And you deserve a lot of respect, and a lot of people should be paying attention here what you did, especially for the 94 team, the original 6 team. And Neil, where can by the way, shout out to our fans for asking great questions to Neil today. And Neil, where can our fans find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at that's my handle, NY York City Neil. And we also have a Twitter for NHL Wraparound. We have our tweeting or Xing or whatever you want to call it, a lot of stuff lately, but that's really the only social media that I'm on is on Twitter, and I enjoy actually sharing thoughts with the.
Yeah, and let us know if you need help with the launch of your podcast. We can help you with that and promote it when you officially launch it. And like I said, this was thank you for joining. It's truly an honor, and thank you for our fans for the support. And Neil, thank you again. Keep up the great work. We'll stay connected. And do you have anything to say to all the Rangers fans?
No, just hang in and keep being as rabid as you've always been. And you know what? Just do whatever you can do to help them along, because you guys, the fans, are the backbone of the team.
Yeah. So there you have it. There you go. Thank you, Neil. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.